Hi, Ranger Angelina here at Sequoia State Park, and I also have Speck, the speckled king snake, who decided to climb into my shirt as we started this live recording. Normally I would say something like, if you're afraid of snakes, fair warning, don't watch. But I think it's important to watch because a lot of times our fears simply come from the unknown or maybe ignorance in other cases. I know a lot of my friends who do similar jobs that I do. We oftentimes hear the only good snake is a dead snake. And when Nick Connor, who's chiming in now, is one that I know hears this a lot, Aaron Goodwin, Sarah Chapman, a lot of my good friends, we hear this. And that's not only discouraging, but very frustrating. We scoop out snake poop so that we can have these snakes here so that the public can learn about them and learn all of their great positive features and the ways that they help our environment and sometimes us directly as humans. And so Speck here, as you can see, is very friendly in my shirt. I can't explain my life, I'm sorry. And I think he's gonna come out the other side here. So Speck shed overnight, and so I came in today to his fresh shed. And a question we often receive is, can you tell what species a snake is by their shed? And the answer is yes, most of the time. The more you know about snakes, the easier it will be to tell about them. And I thought that Speck was a great example of this. So he is a speckled king snake, really, really beautiful snake. His dorsal side there is black with fine yellow speckles, his ventral side quite yellow with an interesting black pattern. He is obviously non-venomous because I am letting him crawl all around me, and you can see that his little face there, he doesn't have cat-like pupils. His pupils are round, and he doesn't have a diamond-shaped head. His is quite in line with the rest of his body. And he's just climbing on me like this because I'm nice and warm. He's cooler. I'm endothermic. I create my own body heat. It's one of my skills. It's on my resume. He's ectothermic, so he needs to receive his heat from external. And one of the reasons that I thought Speck would be a good example of how you can tell a snake species by its shed is his speckling. You can see on his shed here. And so if you look carefully, it almost looks like little poppy seeds. You can see the light color on the dark scales there. And then another thing is here at the end of his body, so close to his tail, I'd say about 14 inches from the tip of his tail, is this unusual deformed set of scales. And Speck escaped one time and was out in the wild, and we found him, and we knew it was Speck because he indeed has these abnormal scales there. And he came to us with those scales, probably from injury, could just potentially be that he had a weird color abnormality. Snakes, you can't tell what species they are based on color. There's so much variation in both color and oftentimes pattern even. But Speck has that unique marking there, and I'll let him hang out here. We had another resident shed last night. So Bull, our bull snake, buffalo bull, he literally just shed. And so I wanted to show you all this. He is 5 feet long. It's our biggest snake we have here in Oklahoma and the biggest one we have here at the Nature Center. I wish you could feel what this is like, but I will try to describe it to you. So like I said, this just came off his body. I just grabbed it from his tank, and it is very wet, and so it is heavy. We put his humidity chamber in there last week. It's a shoebox with a hole cut in it filled with wet moss, and I didn't do this ahead of time because I wanted to try to convey to you kind of what this feels like. I I don't even know. It's almost gooey. It's cold. Very wet, like I said. It's almost like when you're moving your laundry from the washer to the dryer, and it's wet and a little slimy. And as I've told you all before, snakes shed their entire body, including their eye caps. So that's how we knew that Speck and Buffalo Bull were about to shed. Their eye caps turned blue. And I actually have another snake, Cornelia, who is about to shed, so we can try and go look at her eye caps here in a second if Speck doesn't escape on me. And so Buffalo Bull shed here's his face. You can see where his mouth opens, and you can see his eye caps. Yes, like sausage casing or pig intestines, Nick Connor, that's a good way to describe them. So Buffalo Bull shed in 2 pieces. I might have ripped it when I was taking it out here. Speck's going up my pants now. You can see those ventral scales versus the dorsal scales, and you can see his pattern. So he has a pattern more like, unlike the individual scale speckling that Speck has, but you can see his bull snake pattern here on the shed. And so the answer is, when you find a shed in the wild, yes, you could probably tell, or at least narrow down what species it was. And so some things to look for are the scale pattern. So does it have a pattern on its entire body or on specific scales? Its relative size, so its length. This is 5 feet long, so it kind of narrows it down for a big snake in Oklahoma. And then you're also looking at girth. So how wide that snake is. Venomous snakes are more girthy. They're short and more rotund, whereas like a coach whip is very long and thin. He's playing in his own shed now. So all of those things can help you to identify what snake it was. And then their head shape also on here. And then if their scales are smooth or keeled. So keeled is like a rattlesnake. Each individual scale is like a little shield, like a knight would carry, or like the keel of a boat. Each one is just very distinct and almost more firm, more tough feeling. Here's the tail end of Buffalo Bull there, and you can really see the pattern there. That's pretty cool. So you could tell from this it's probably a bull snake. You can go to oksnakes.org, which is a great site run by my friend Aaron Goodwin of the Tulsa Zoo. And when you go on there, you can click on patterned or solid color or whatever and narrow down what snake you saw in your yard. And it's a beginner's guide, and it's one that I use, and I know my employees use, and my other friends use that, because it's good not only if you're new to snakes, but also if you're a seasoned veteran. It can help narrow things down when it's a tricky species or maybe an area of the state that you're not sure about. So let's go see if we can find Cornelia, who I said is about to shed herself. And so she's what we call blue right now. And normally I try not to mess with them when they're about to shed. But Cornelia is very docile. Speck is trying to kill me here on Facebook Live. Okay. Of course, she's way back in here. Hey, Cornelia. So I'll turn the camera around. And there's Cornelia. And hopefully you can see that her eyes are cloudy blue. There you go. I won't disturb her anymore. But that means she's about to shed too, which is good. That means she's eating. So sometimes they shed if they have mites or an injury, or if they're young and growing a lot. And sometimes they shed just because they're eating well and growing rapidly. And so the fact that we have several shedding at the same time, they're fed on the same cycle, And even though they're different individuals and different species, we seem to have this sync going on with our snakes when they all shed at the same time. So hopefully, even if you were a little scared of snakes, you're a little less scared now. And your fears will probably be assuaged some the more you learn about snakes. I know that's what happened to me. So thanks for tuning in, and come check out our snakes the next time you're here.